My name is Nonat, and welcome, finally, to the review, first impressions, whatever, the one video you've all been waiting for. The Cleric Class Deep Dive. The Lizardfolk Ancestry Deep Dive. It's the Inventor first impressions from the Guns & Gears playtest, which I believe still has another 2 weeks or so going until February 4th. I don't know what day it is because time has lost all meaning. Also, you'll notice I have a air mattress behind me. That's to hopefully soak up some of the sound. We'll see if it just bounces back off. But let's not waste any time. We're going to be going over all of the class features here today, and then on the next video we'll be going over the feats, and it won't take 2 weeks to get that one out. So, looking at the Inventor, the key ability score is Intelligence. Shocker. I'm interested in how they're going to differentiate this from the Alchemist. Like, rather than just making this an Alchemist subclass, they made it its own class, so I'm really interested. 8 hit points, which is more than I expected. I expected this to be a 6 hit point class, but turns out not to be so. Expert in Fortitude and Will, and only trained in Perception and Reflex, pretty understandable. Trained in Crafting, and only 3+ Intelligence and Skills. I guess I assumed they would get more. Like, not like a rogue level of skills. Maybe because Intelligence is their main ability score, they didn't want to give them too big of a base number, since most Inventors will have at least a 16 Intelligence anyway. Trained in all weapons except for Advanced, and trained in Medium Armor, which is fascinating to me. I guess I don't know what to expect from this class. I have actually avoided all discussion, all forums, I bit my tongue! All other forms of playtest interaction and spoilers for this class, so I'm going in completely blind, and I'm shocked they have medium armor. Interestingly, they get the unstable trait on certain actions and feats, and it functions a lot like a misfire for a gunslinger. I'm guessing these are super powerful abilities, but if you try to use them again, then you have to roll a DC 17 flat check, and if you fail, which is 70% of the time, 80% of the time you're going to fail, your machine goes up in sparks. What that means, I don't know, but you have to spend 10 minutes fixing it. Oh, it says what it means right here, because I can't read. It cannot take any more unstable actions. If you fail that, that's actually not too bad. You have a chance to be able to use these actions a second time, but if you fail, you can't use them again. Oh, interesting. So innovations are not your pet, because it says to use an unstable action, you must be using it. For example, wearing an armor or wielding a weapon. Honestly, I have no idea what to expect from this class. I am super into it. If you have a minion, I bet those are the subclasses. I'm getting ahead of myself. They have access to the ranged trait from weapons, which is something that I've only ever seen on the Darrow creatures from the Bestiary. And the tethered, this is literally like the Darrow's weapon, where they have a ranged throwing weapon that can trip you because there's a hook on the end, and it's also tied to a rope, so you can pull it back to your hand. Interesting. I'm sorry. I just scrolled down and I'm like, ancestry and background, initial proficiencies, explode. Explode? Okay, so you start right up with an unstable trait ability without even taking a feat. Explode. For 2 actions, you can just detonate your creation. It deals 2d6 fire damage in a 5-foot emanation from you or your minion with a... Dude, that's a level 1 fireball. That's really cool. Like, I'm guessing it hurts you too, right? It's hard to say, because it says a 5-foot emanation around you, but I imagine that has to hurt you too. At 5th level, interesting, so it doesn't start scaling again until 5th level, and then every 2 levels afterwards. Interesting. So 5, 7, 9, okay. And you can, as you get more class features, you can actually choose the size of this explosion. Again, I think it's really hard to say, rules as written, whether that hurts you or not. We'll see. Alright, here come the subclasses, the Inventor Innovations. The Innovations level is equal to your level. It only works due to your constant maintenance, has no market price, and takes 1 day to make a new one if yours is destroyed. Interesting. So, starting with armor. This is sounding a lot like the new Tasha's Artificer so far. Your Innovation armor has the following statistics. Okay, AC bonus +4? Holy crap! Is that plate mail? No. Okay, full plate is +6. Still, that's pretty good. With a dex cap of +1. You need to have 16 strength to wield it without a penalty, though. Wow. You can inscribe it with runes, and nobody else is trained in it. Other people can wear your armor, but even if they're trained in medium armor, they doesn't apply to this armor set. Choose one initial armor modification to apply to your innovation, either from the following or from other initial armor modifications. Okay, so these modifications just give you resistance equal to 2 plus half your level to whatever specific type you pick. For example, the harmonic oscillator gives you resistance to force and sonic damage. Metallic reactance is against acid and electricity, but otherworldly protection seems different. Okay, so otherworldly protection protects you from positive negative damage and from alignment damage, but only specifically the opposite of what you're weak to. So if you're a Dhampir and you choose this for your armor, you gain resistance to positive damage. And if you happen to be a chaotic, good Dhampir, it also protects you from lawful and evil damage. And finally, fire and cold damage reduction. That's fine. I mean, I'll look into the feats. I'm not impressed so far. It's fine. A little bit of resistance for a base class feature that doesn't sound like a lot, but this sounds like it might be a class that relies on their feats. But let's look at the construct. So the construct info is actually all the way after the feats, similar to how the summoner was. So let's look at this first before we look at the options in the class feature. It functions exactly like a minion for like an animal companion or something. You spend one action to give it 2 actions. You can make riding companions, which is awesome as long as it's one size larger than you. Looks like under prototype construct companions, they function a lot like a humanoid companion, except, you command them because they count as a minion. They can even, it looks like, equip armor and stuff, but the only item bonuses they can receive are to speed, weirdly enough. And construct companions are trained in unarmed attacks, unarmed defense, all saving throws, perception, acrobatics, and athletics. They cannot use abilities that require intelligence. Interesting. Even if they're trained in that skill, they can't do something like decipher riding with society. Interesting. Your companion has to be either small or medium when you gain them, meaning the only way you can ride them at level 1 is if you are a small creature like a rat folk. And their strikes are about what you'd expect. They have 2 options, a 1d8 bludgeoning attack and a 1d6 agile slashing attack. It can also do piercing. This is already very similar to the Summoner's Eidolon stats, and we'll keep reading. It's basically an animal companion. From everything we've read so far, it is pretty much an animal companion. It's balanced as far as strength and dex with a decent constitution, so it's got pretty balanced combat-focused stats. And it looks like its hit point scale exactly like an animal companion as well, with a base of 10 and gaining 6 plus con mod every time you level up. What is kind of cool is if it drops to 0 health, it is not instantly destroyed. It is broken, but you can use the crafting skill to repair your own construct. But if it breaks again within 10 minutes, it is destroyed and you need to make a new one. Constructs are immune to a whole bunch of stuff because they're not living beings, so they can't bleed, death effects, disease, doom, drain, fatigue. The list is right there. You can read it. That's a lot. But also, because it's not a living creature, effects that heal living creatures do not heal the construct. It has to be repaired in order to be healed. That's rough. I'm sure there's probably a feat or something for the Inventor to do that mid-combat, but that's pretty rough that you can't even use a heal spell on your construct. It can see, hear, and touch, but it cannot smell or taste, and it has a movement speed of 25 feet. So already looking through this, it looks like the construct is going to expand exactly like an animal companion. Instead of a mature animal companion, you have an advanced construct companion. Increase 4 of its stats by 1, increase its damage die by 1 when it attacks. All saving throws and perception increase to expert, a bunch of skills increase, and you can change the size. Now what I like about this is it doesn't say you can change the size, up. You can change it down too. If your companion this whole time has been a medium, like humanoid, you can alter it when you upgrade it and change its size to small. Maybe it used to look like a human, but now it looks like a dwarf. You can, whenever you expand and upgrade it like this, you get that option. I think that's really cool. They're not even playing around with this one. Instead of an incredible animal companion, it's just an incredible construct companion. Stats go up, it gets weapon specialization with its unarmed attacks, it's considered a magical attack, and its skills go up. And the final upgrade is the Paragon construct, increasing its stat mods by 1 again, and it only increases its unarmed attacks to expert now. I'm gonna have to look at the class features and everything to see what that means, but that sounds really rough, because this sounds like one of the last upgrades you get for a construct, And if it only just now gets expert in its attacks, that's not good. It gets master in unarmored defense and stuff, so maybe this is supposed to be more of a tank. It's not meant to do damage, it's meant to sit there and soak up damage while you and your allies fight from behind it. It gets 3 damage die and 2 more damage from weapon specialization, but that's it. So this thing, it sounds like it's going to take hits, but it's not going to deliver them. But we'll see what that all means as we look through the class features, because there's a crap ton of them. So, with the construct, also at level 1, you get to augment it in some way, such as amphibious construction, meaning that your construct can swim in water with a speed of 25 feet. You can give it dark vision and tremor sense, you can give it a 40-foot move speed on land with accelerated mobility, you can even give it a 1d4 unarmed ranged attack with projectile launcher, again, very similar to the Summoner's Eidolon. I do like that you can even make sort of a stealth infiltrator construct with the upgraded Cortex, giving it stealth, survival, and intimidation trained. There's a lot of cool ways to go, and I love all the different augmentations. But let's look at the weapon construct, or innovation. So it starts with the exact same stats as a level 0 common, simple, or martial weapon. You can enchant it with runes, yada yada yada. And similar to the armor, only you are trained in it, nobody else can use it as good as you. And then, just like the armor and the construct, you get to augment it with one of these choices at level 1. Complex Simplicity increases the damage die of your weapon by 1 step, only if your base weapon model was a simple weapon. So if your unique weapon is a club, which I kind of want to play an Inventor with a fancy club, you can increase it from a d6 to a d8. You can also give it versatile bludgeoning, piercing, slashing. So I could put, a buzzsaw on the end of my club. I'm making this character. I'm gonna be Krieg from Borderlands. Entangling Form can only be applied to a melee weapon, but it gives your melee weapon the grapple and trip traits, and I'm already loving this, by the way. If I'm playing an Inventor, I am 10 out of 10 doing a weapon Inventor, because this all at level 1, this just lets you add traits to weapons, which should not have these traits. Dude, like you could have a polearm with a 10-foot reach and give it the trip and grapple traits. You could grapple from 10 feet away. And I just love it because it's up to you to explain how that works. Like, maybe your polearm, just your long spear with Entangling Form, when you stab, has these little, claws that come out and grab the target, or like a little lasso that shoots out and around and ties itself. This is the coolest thing I've read in the playtest. Sorry, Gunslinger, Inventor just won. Hefty Composition gives any melee weapon the shove and versatile bludgeoning traits. Modular Head is really cool. Using one action, which is how the modular trait works, you change the type of damage your weapon does. Think of it as taking a piece off and putting something else on. So, if you have that club, you could use it for bludgeoning. Again, it's up to you to explain how you make the modular work, but with the club, you could take the top off and then it's a knife inside. Or you can put the top back on, press a button, and little slicey blades come out and deal slashing damage. Oh, it's so cool. You can also give your weapon the non-lethal trait, which is not normally part of modular, but because Inventors are so cool, you can. Pacification gives your weapon disarm and non-lethal. Razor Prongs give you trip and versatile slashing. And Segmented Frame is really interesting. The rest of these seem to say melee only, but Segmented Frame does not. The main focus of Segmented Frame is you can collapse the weapon. So you can have a longbow that slides down into its grip, and you can just pocket that super easily. At the same time, it also gains the modular trait, and this doesn't have to be on melee weapons. This means, I don't know how, but you can take your longbow, spend an action to convert it to slashing damage, and fire a slashing arrow, or a bludgeoning arrow, which is so cool. And of course, when your weapon is collapsed, you get bonuses to stealth checks to hide and conceal it. This is so cool. I love the Weapon Inventor, and Paizo, you done good. For level 1, those are amazing options. Inventors also get feats at level 1. I don't know why I'm surprised, because they're not a spellcaster, but cool. Inventors also get a level 1 feat, and I think the final level 1 feature is Overdrive, which I'm guessing is overclocking your innovation. For one action, this is a manipulate trait, so this can trigger attacks of opportunity. Be careful. You add greater power to your attacks by throwing an array of small gadgets and gizmos into overdrive. Attempt a crafting check. Ooh, Inventor uses crafting mid-combat. I love it. On a critical success, your strikes deal additional damage equal to your intelligence modifier for 1 minute? Holy cow, screw you, investigators! You have to roll every time you want to do this? The freaking inventor is just like, boop, now I do 4 more damage per hit. Success, which is more likely, is half, but still 2 additional damage per hit. That's a ranger feat that you have to cast with gravity weapon. This is just something you can do. Should you fail, nothing happens. You just lose an action. It's not even a flourish, so you can do it again. Can you stop bumping me? Like, I appreciate what you're trying to do here, Air Mattress, and I appreciate that you're probably helping, but you're getting a little cozy. And should you critically fail, it backfires a little bit. You take 1 fire damage per level of your character, and you can't overdrive again for 1 minute. This is insane. This is so good, and you're going to use this, like, almost every encounter. You know, like, not necessarily, you might not need 2 extra damage, 4 extra damage, but that is good job. My only complaint is it makes a huge difference between a 16 intellect inventor and an 18 intellect inventor. This is because in Pathfinder 2e, everything that's halved is rounded down. So if you get a normal success on your overdrive, you're doing 1 damage instead of 2 because your modifier is only +3. Whereas 18, half of 4 is 2. So it's a big bonus for having 18 intelligence. It doesn't make or break your whole class and stuff, but it's good. And also your construct gains these bonuses too if you have a construct and not a weapon or armor. Holy cow, there's another first level feature. Good lord, we're still on level 1. You constantly invent new technologies, rendering your skill at crafting impeachable. You gain the inventor skill feat. Oh, okay, it's just a skill feat. All right, that makes sense. Moving on. Skill feats, general feats. At 3rd level, you get reconfigure. You can change the modifications on your innovation by spending 1 day of downtime and a crafting check. Okay, that's fine. Yeah, it just lets you retrain your subclass you chose. You know, if you don't want razor prongs anymore on your melee weapon, you can get the simple weapon upgrade one or something like that. Pretty cool. Skill increases at 3rd, ability boosts at 5, ancestry feats, weapon innovator. You develop tricks for using your weapons more effectively. Okay, you become an expert like a normal martial class at level 5, and if you have the weapon innovation, you get your crit specialization. That makes sense. Also, it rhymed. Expert reflex saves, and then offensive boost at level 7. Basically, this gives you a permanent plus 1d6 damage as long as you're using your innovation. Obviously, you know, your weapon or your construct are pretty obvious what the damage applies to. If you have the armor innovation, you choose 1 weapon each day, or your unarmed attacks, to deal the bonus damage, which means there's a build out there for a martial artist armor inventor, which sounds super rad. This can also be reconfigured, the level 3 feature we talked about earlier. And yeah, so you can deal an additional 1d6 cold, fire, electric, bludgeoning, slashing, piercing, or acid damage, which is just super cool. Weapon specialization. And here comes a big one. The 9th level Breakthrough Innovation, which is just a massive subclass upgrade. Let's start with the armor. I believe this just means you can add a 2nd modification to your innovation. And it also says you can choose a 2nd one from the original list if you so choose, but I'm guessing these ones are going to be way stronger. For armor, you can gain resistance to slashing damage. You can upgrade your initial resistance and double down on the same type. Though this only upgrades it to your level, which at level 9 is actually not bad. So if you take enhanced resistance, rather than having a 6 resistance to sonic damage, you would be upgraded to an 11 resistance. That's actually pretty good. It doesn't make you immune to damage, but an 11 damage resistance to a specific type is pretty huge. Heavy construction basically turns your armor into plate mail. You still need at least 16 strength score, but your proficiency in medium armor still applies to this armor. Armor class bonus of 5, dex cap of 1. Hopefully you have 16 strength, so otherwise those penalties don't apply. Really, Chuck? Chuck, I'm recording. I hate this truck. Shut the hell up. Thank you. This also gives the... Are you serious? You just waited for me to start talking. Oh, I'm gonna go get a drink. Oh, okay, it's done. Awesome. This also gives your armor the Bulwark trait, which just straight up reduces damage for you. So this is just a really good upgrade. Layered Mesh gives you resistance to piercing damage, and Tensile Absorption gives you resistance to bludgeoning damage. It's really interesting that, it makes sense. If you tailor your Inventor around armor, you're going for a tanky, taking hits build. So it's not bad. It feels a little weak compared to the other two, but maybe I just need to see it in action. Damage reduction is something that sounds a lot less good in theory, but especially if you're taking a lot of little hits, it adds up fast. The construct breakthroughs, the first one's really cool. You choose a level 1 weapon modification and give that to your construct. So this is sort of a multi-subclassing. You're giving that simple weapon upgrade. I don't think that would apply because they're not simple weapons. Give it that trip or disarm trait onto your construct could lead to some really cool gameplay. You can give it a climb speed equal to half its land speed. Durable construction is great and might be the best in my opinion just because this construct is clearly built to take hits, increasing its maximum hit points by your level. It's basically toughness, but 9 extra hit points is nothing to sneeze at. Refined Cortex is interesting because it actually has a prerequisite. You need to have selected the upgraded Cortex at first level to take it, but this just makes it a better infiltrator. Intimidation, stealth, and survival all increase to expert, though, again, this is at level 9. An expert skill isn't huge and is going to start falling behind, but just as an extra companion, I do think it's pretty great. At the same time, if it was already an expert in any of those, it becomes a master instead. And then if its proficiency increases again from another feature, it goes up to legendary. So you can get legendary in these stats for your companion, which is really cool. And now for what I'm excited for, the weapon modifications. Let's take a look here. Inconspicuous appearance. It just gives your weapon the backstabber and versatile piercing trait. Can we talk about how you can make a backstabbing great axe with this? I like this a lot. Advanced Rangefinder makes any ranged weapon basically a firearm. Not really, but it gives it the sniper trait and increases its range by 10 feet. You can give your longbow a range of 110 feet, and the sniper trait makes it do, I believe, 2 additional damage? 1 additional damage every single hit, and 2 additional damage if it is a +3 weapon. So it's not a lot of extra damage, but extra range, and basically think of it as increasing your minimum damage by 1 rather than focusing on maximum, and it looks a lot better. Aerodynamic construction's a little bit lackluster. It gives your weapon sweep and versatile slashing. Again, it's good to have all those different weapon damage types on there, but sweep is not the best trait. If you hit multiple targets, you do +1 damage to the other target, or is sweep the attack roll bonus? Okay, never mind. Sweep is a little bit better. I'm thinking of momentum, but sweep does give you +1 to your chance to hit, so this does sort of negate a little bit of multiple attack penalty if you attack a different target. Integrated Gauntlet is insanely cool. You have to have a one-handed weapon as your weapon, but it becomes integrated into your gauntlet. We're talking like wrist knives, where you can punch and slice with your one-handed weapon, but your hands are still left free. Which means technically with this, you could have like a normal bow or a firearm, and the second they get close, you just throw it down. You don't even need to draw your weapon. It's already there and you're in melee. This is so cool. You can make your weapon considered cold iron or silver at the same time, and thus, taking advantage of certain weaknesses depending on what you're fighting. And Tangle Line is that ranged, trip, and tethered, where you can attack, make a trip action, and for an extra action, return it to you. So you can effectively, make your weapon into a thrown weapon, trip, and pull it back to you all in one turn. It's really, really neat. Inventive Expertise is just class DC. Armor Expertise, Master Will Saves, Expert Perception, Weapon Mastery, some pretty standard stuff here. Complete Reconfiguration is fine. It's an upgrade to your ability to redesign your weapon. You take 1 day, you replace a modification. Well, at 15th level, you can take 1 day to replace both modifications. It does say all, so maybe there are some feats that give you additional modifications, and you can switch them all out with other ones of the same level. I think it would have been cooler if it just changed it to, during daily preparations, you can switch one. For a 15th level feature, I think that would have been better. Greater weapon specialization, master and fortitude saves, class DC is master, and then revolutionary innovation. This is the final big subclass upgrade where you put in a New modification to your innovation. It's really hard with all these shun words, but let's look at the armor starting with Energy Barrier. Energy Barrier gives you resistance to acid, cold, electricity, fire, force, negative, positive, and sonic damage. However, you do have a prerequisite of needing the harmonic oscillator, metallic reactants, or thermal insulation, which, let's be honest, you probably do, especially the thermal insulation. Fire damage is so common, and this is just a straight upgrade. Incredible Resistance is an upgrade to one of the breakthrough modifications that gave you resistance to slashing, bludgeoning, or piercing, and increases that to 2 plus your level instead of 2 plus half your level. Which, this is level 17, so that's an extra 9 points of resistance, which that makes a difference. Physical Protections is going wider instead of taller, whereas the last one increased 1 resistance to 2 plus your level. Physical Protections gives you all 3 resistances equal to 2 plus half your level. So you have to have already picked one of them for your breakthrough. Physical, bludgeoning, piercing, or slashing, and then this Physical Protections upgrade gives you the other 2 you didn't pick. Pretty good, and in my opinion, better than Incredible Resistance, just because you never know what type of damage your enemies are going to be doing. Better to cover all your bases a little bit than one base a lot. And Rune Capacity is probably the best one. Maybe Physical Protections is good too. This lets you have a 4th property rune. You know, everything caps out at a +3, which means you can only have 3 runes. But this makes your armor able to hold a 4th rune, and those high-level runes can get pretty nutty, so this is probably the best one. But it's also the most expensive, because you need to find out a way to get that rune. Construct modifications. You can give it a fly speed of 25 feet. Runic Keystone, simply put, lets you put a single rune on your construct. This can be a weapon rune or an armor rune, however, your construct must meet the prerequisites and requirements for it to take effect. For example, it says if you put the Glamored rune on your construct, it wouldn't do anything, because your construct is not wearing armor. It specifically says the rune cannot change the shape or appearance of your construct. Resistant Coating is just insane. A permanent resistance 5 to all damage. Just permanent. That's insane. And then Wall Configuration. Your construct can turn into a stationary battlefield emplacement. For 2 actions, it unfolds into a thin, straight wall of metal and gears, 10 feet tall, 30 feet long. This causes your construct to be flat-footed, and an additional -2 penalty to its armor class. So your construct basically takes a -4 armor class while in this mode and can't take any actions except to turn back. A kind of cool flavor text they added here is the wall does block line of sight. However, once your construct is at lower than half health, there are enough holes and cracks that people can see through the wall, and tiny creatures can actually squeeze through the wall. So this is cool, this is fine. This could lead to some really sad moments of you sacrificing your construct to get away. You know, you have it become a wall in a hallway, and things can't get through until they break and destroy your construct. It's sad, but it's incredibly good. And now for the good ones, revolutionary weapon modifications, starting with the Attack Refiner. You gain backswing and shove, both decent traits. Ooh, Deadly Strike, give your innovation Deadly D8. And if it already had Deadly D8, it gets Deadly D12 instead. I love Deadly. Enhanced Damage is basically the complex simplicity from the first level. However, it works on any weapon, and it cannot be stacked with complex simplicity. So you can't make your club a 6 to a D8 and then a D8 to a D10, but this does mean you can upgrade a D10 weapon to a D12. Interestingly, I don't think there is a step above D12, because obviously the next one would be like D20, so I don't think, if you put this on something like a Great Axe as your innovation weapon, I don't think it does anything. You can give your weapon Forceful, you can give any weapon Reach, which is absolutely great, and then Impossible Alloy is confusing, because I'll be honest with y'all, I've never heard of most of these. Your weapon counts as though it were made of each of the 7 sky metals: Abyssium, Adamantine, Jezzit, Inubrix, Noqual, Orichalcum, and Sicatite. I've heard of 2 of those, but this does mean your weapon deals bonus damage if the enemy is weak to any of those. So that's really, really solid, especially if you're fighting a bunch of otherworldly crazy creatures. And rune capacity works the exact same way as on the armor, where you can have a 4th property rune, even if you only have a +3 fundamental rune. And let's end it off at 19th level. No one cares about you, medium armor mastery, but let's look at infinite invention. I don't like this. I really don't like this at all. Infinite Invention at 19th level during daily preparations lets you change your innovation to any of the other 2, as well as all of its boosts and modifications. So if you've had a weapon innovation the entire game, during the day you can just be like, you're a construct now, and then it fights alongside you. My problem is this takes any sense. I mean, it's level 19, so it's not going to affect 99% of most games. But it does remove the identity from the subclasses of the Inventor at max level. You know, you're not going to have a difference between a construct inventor, a weapon inventor, and an armor inventor after level 19, because they can all do the same things. Now, your feats don't carry over, but it does upgrade the speed at which you can retrain your feats. You can retrain a feat per day instead of per week. So, you know, this means if you have 1 week of downtime, you can change your construct, 7 of your feats, and you're just a different character now. I really don't like that. Like, I'm all for retraining feats, that's fine, but I don't know, like with other classes, the time it takes is doable, but it takes a long time. You know, if you're a level 19 ranger, it'll take you a couple of weeks to a couple of months if you want to completely reinvent your class, you know, your subclass, your feats, everything. That takes a long time of dedication in that character's life. And I'm not a fan of how easy it is for the inventor to be like, I'm a different character now. I'm still an inventor, but I just changed all my feats and my subclass in a week. Not a fan. That's a rough way to end it. It's a rough way to end the first impressions of the class features, but hopefully you guys enjoyed it. Let me know. Maybe you love Infinite Invention. Maybe you think that's cool. Let me know what you think down in the comments, what you agree with, what I inevitably misread and misexplained, because I'm sure there was something I was wrong about. It's cool, though. I do like it. I love the Weapon Inventor. Armor and Construct I'm not as big a fan of, but I think the Weapon Inventor has won my heart a lot. So tell me what you think. We'll be back in the next video to look over the Inventor feats and see if that sways me at all in my opinions, because I love 90% of the Inventor so far. That last feature is but it's not a deal breaker for me. So, thank you to my patrons. I really appreciate you all and your constant support. If you're interested, I am doing character commissions in the link below on my Ko-fi. If you want me to design a character for you, of any character you like, feel free to check it out. It's a great way to support me, support the channel. I hope you all have a wonderful rest of your day. And until next time, no nat ones.